William Alexander Ribble family, circa 1907. William Alexander Ribble was known as Pooh by his family and Uncle Billy by the community. He was born in 1851 and died in 1948 at the age of 97. In 1878, Pooh married Nancy Cooch, whose nickname was Nanny. In 1886, they had their fourth child together, a daughter, Josephine Pearl Ribble. She went by Josie. On September 4th, 1910, Josie married John Walter Caldwell. They had 3 children, Josephine, John Jr., and Doris. Josie died in 1976. The following video was done in October 2008 with 2 of Josie's grandchildren, Susan and Shelley Caldwell.
I'm Susan Caldwell, and Josie Ribble was our grandmother, and she had 3 children. Her only son was our father, John Caldwell, and John and our mother had the 2 of us. It's just the 2 girls. And it's your turn, Shelley.
Okay, I'm Shelley Caldwell, and this is my husband, Jay Rory. Josie had 2 daughters, Josephine and Doris, and Josephine didn't have kids, but Doris had 4, and I'm really sorry they're not here. They're John and Bill and Nancy and Pat Smith, so we're going to try to get them here next time. Josie was probably the most wonderful person in the world to me. She was really sweet and kind to everybody, and no one who met her did anything but love her. She was just wonderful. She, I guess I must have been about 10 or so when she moved to Dumas. She and John Caldwell moved to Dumas to help raise Doris's kids, and she ran a tight ship. We'd go up to visit, and she really ruled the roost, but she was also the best cook in the world, and just made fantastic meals for huge groups of people all the time. And, we really loved her. I guess my biggest regret about Josie is that she and Jay never met, because they would have loved each other.
Well, they would have hit it off big time.
Yeah.
You mentioned sometime yesterday, this morning, that you had spent the night in the log cabin.
Yeah. We would come up from Fort Worth, and some of the Bigums would come from Lubbock, and maybe the Smiths from Dumas, and we'd all meet at, we call them Andela and HV. We'd meet there, and at least once, and it may have been a couple of times, the littler kids, which would be Nancy and Pat and I, would get to stay in the log cabin because it was set up as an extra room. And that, of course, that was just fantastic. We were playing Pioneer and doing all kinds of things out there, and that was very special.
And I don't know if Susan, you and I are the only ones that remember, or Wayne does, the green grape, the green grape
pie.
Green grape pie.
Man. It made your mouth.
Green grape pie.
They were picked while they were still not ripe. And you would put about 3 tons of sugar on these grapes. And
Were they wild?
They were
Yes,
wild.
they're Mustang grapes.
Yeah.
And you have to pick them green.
The seeds weren't yet formed, so you didn't have to seed them or anything because the seeds were still not there. But as much sugar as she put in it, it still made your mouth pucker, but it was so good with homemade ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
And my job would be sitting on the ice cream maker, while somebody else cranked, because I was the littlest. And then we'd have the ice cream with the green grape pie.
That was Della that made the pie?
Della.
When she in Dumas? I mean, I thought Della lived in Dumas.
No, Josie lived in Dumas.
Well, I remember seeing Josie there. That's right.
I don't remember Josie in Dumas.
I think I do, just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, she lived in Dumas from late 50s or early 60s until John died, and then she went to live in Houston with her daughter Josephine. And I'm gonna tell, I mean, we're frank here. One thing that was really cool about that to us was that whether one approves or not, she enjoyed a cigarette occasionally. And she enjoyed a little glass of bourbon occasionally, but she always had to hide it from John. So after she moved to Houston, she would, and she always wore dresses. She went out and bought pantsuits, and she would sit on the couch in her pantsuit with her cigarette and her drink, and she was just in heaven. And we were so happy for her that she had that little time in her life. She could just be herself.
Well, I don't know y'all's ages. Do either of y'all remember Pooh?
No, he died 2 years before I was born.
And I was too little to remember it. One thing about Mimi, we always, instead of Josie, we always called her Mimi. And one thing about her that I'll never forget is how the terrific sense of humor she had. I mean,
No,
she laughed at herself as well as laughing. I mean, just anything that, you know, if something was really sad, she could get everybody to feeling good about it. I mean, she just had an ability to make you feel good, you know, be around her. She was just wonderful.
She didn't take herself too seriously, which I wish I did.
And when did she pass away?
You're the genealogist in the group. When did she? It was in the 70s. Yeah.
And it was after Della?
Yeah, I think Aunt Della
It was after Della.
died first.
Was it the last time y'all saw Aunt Della and Uncle Herbert? Was that her funeral?
Probably so.
Yeah. And we used to come here to Aunt Della's a lot and ride horses. I remember that was really fun. You remembered something about a raccoon hunt, I think.
Yeah, and I had to have been little. I don't know why this made such a big impression on me, but it did. We came down here and we all went coon hunting at night. And I remember just like, it seemed like a jillion dogs, and you know, they finally got one up a tree, and I thought that was just the coolest thing in the whole world. You know, it was so much fun.
Was there a bunch of kids?
Yeah,
It was mostly adults.
mostly
but
grown-ups.
the kids got to go.
And then we were talking about, I mean, why would they want the raccoon? What were they going to
Well,
do?
my dad was a big coon hunter, and I can't help but think that he would have wanted to go. I don't know if he was there or not.
He might have
Well, it
been.
could have been. There were a whole bunch of people, the way I remember it.
And was it at the Bigham place?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They assembled there, so your dad very well could have been there.
He liked to go coon hunting down at Rock Creek.
Yeah.
And with Bigham not liking hunting, although I think he means with guns.
Well, did they eat the raccoons?
No.
Or-
They skinned them and sold the skin.
Oh,
That's,
So
we didn't know why.
we can ask questions, right?
Of course.
Please do.
So Josie, I'm trying to get this straight.
Yeah.
So Josie was married to who?
John W. Caldwell, John Walter Caldwell.
Oh, so he was you would call him John, but he was your
He was my grandfather.
He was your grandfather.
Right.
And they were married a long time.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And they moved to Dumas, but why did they move to Dumas?
Well, Doris had 4 kids.
Who's
and
Doris?
Doris was their daughter. And she had to work, and so did her husband Smitty, and
Okay.
she needed help with the kids.
But your mother's not Doris.
No, our mother is Una.
Okay.
Her name was Una Alcorn.
How many kids did they have?
Susan and I.
No.
Oh,
How many? Josie, how many?
Josie had three. Josephine and John and Doris.
Okay.
And we're from John.
Okay.
Josephine
Okay.
had no children.
Della was y'all's aunt.
Our great aunt.
Great
Great
aunt.
aunt.
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, we've heard the story that Verlin Bigham was the reason that Mother and Daddy ever met.
Yeah.
Because Mother grew up in and around Lubbock. She graduated from Lubbock High School. And then she went to work, she's working at Lubbock National Bank. And, Verlin was I guess it was at the Gent Company then, wasn't it?
The sheet metal or the Gent
Uh-huh.
Company, something.
And, he dealt with First National Bank in Lubbock in his business, and some way he knew Mother, and I don't remember how the story goes, if he told Daddy that he needed something delivered down to the bank and to give it to Mother, or.
But he was trying to get them together.
And that's how they met, is the way we all.
He purposely was trying to.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, our dad, John Caldwell Jr., was about roughly the same age group as Furlan and Croft and Ross. So they were all friends, and through childhood and up into college, they were all.
And one really cool thing about all of us getting together today, this would have been Daddy's birthday.
Oh,
It's the 25th,
that's
and,
Happy birthday.
Oh.
yeah,
How old were you?
94, didn't
94,
Uh-huh.
So he was born in what year then?
1914.
So same as our dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Uh-huh.
And he would have been so thrilled about this meeting.
Uh-huh.
If he were here, he'd be right in the big middle of everything.
Oh, yeah.
Well, another thing we didn't say was that Daddy stayed with Aunt Della and HB while he was going to Tech in Lubbock also. Uh-huh. And then I went to Tech also, so that goes way back in our family.
And I was thinking today when we were out at Rock Creek, and I was just sitting looking at the hills and thinking about our forebears being here and looking at the same hills I was
The
looking at.
Indians around.
Mm.
And our dad grew up in Athens, Texas, and that wasn't ever home for him, though. This was home for him. It's always, meant a whole lot more. And I know he would have loved to have bought the place when it was sold, and he wasn't
all of our,
told
yes,
they were selling.
yes, all of us are like
So
that, like,
That was Aunt Della's
Like
son?
so?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
we
mhm.
would still have it in the family, but
I wonder what.
Hey, we wouldn't have been threatened with a shotgun
Oh,
today.
Hey, can we get on that property without getting thrown in jail?
if it were up to us,
Oh, yeah.
but things just don't always happen that way.
There's
So
a
that's
reason.
turned up where we saw Stagger Log Cabin, that was
Yeah.
Aunt Della's.
Yes.
That's where we
Yeah.
visited.
I guess she bought everybody out when
When-
Pooh died.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I don't think it was it when he died or when he moved to town? When was it?
I honestly don't know. I wasn't there. But
Because do y'all remember him slaughtering pigs and hanging them to dry?
Yeah, yeah.
He had a state-of-the-art.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 those pigs
But
had,
where
had
was that?
showers on the property.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Air conditioned too,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was state of the art.
Yeah.
For
it
the
was-
time.
I remember that. Vividly.
I wish y'all could have known Josie and Aunt Della together. I mean, they
Oh,
were
they were
about like
funny.
all
I don't think I
y'all
ever
are.
saw them together.
Oh,
They
they
were
had
so
so
funny.
much fun.
We got a bunch of pictures of them together.
Yeah.
Did we? We never saw them.
No,
Does anybody else remember Aunt Della's salt and pepper collection?
Yes, I said, because she had it in Lubbock.
Yeah.
yes, I think I did.
Yeah. I was fascinated by those salt and pepper shakers when I was a kid. Just,
Well, did Aunt Ora die before Uncle Will?
No, Granddaddy died first, and then she pretty much willed her death like a year later.
Oh, I remember a story that either Aunt Della or Josie one told about. I think it was Aunt Della had a brand new car and it had air conditioning. Yeah, and that was a big thing then to have an air conditioned car. And they, some way, the two of them and Uncle Will, or maybe they were coming down here. I don't remember. They were going somewhere. And Uncle Will was sitting in the back seat all the way wherever they were going. And he kept rolling his window down. And they kept telling him, don't, put the window up or the air conditioner won't work. And he wouldn't do it all the way down there. They'd put it up and he'd roll it back down.
Was he in the back seat?
Uh-huh.
Well, see, that was before the back seat had vents.
Yeah.
He was probably hot.
I guess so.
But they had air conditioning.
Remember Leora?
But up front,
Do you remember our grandmother?
Was it
And
Linda?
Leora.
Leora.
we called her Ora,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Leora,
She
tell
went
us,
by
we
Leora.
wanna know,
Yeah.
Leora, 'cause
I
nobody ever
barely
called her.
remember her. I remember Uncle Will more for some reason.
He was